Yeah, go on. Part two we're on now. Bit of a tech error. But yeah, you go on. You were saying about MTK.
There are so many names involved in this, right? So we shouldn't name them because that's the job of the law enforcement guys. But
we're not law enforcement, are we? But
yeah,
what we don't want to see is innuendo and gossip and stuff on newspapers. And there's that the Irish crime writer, Nicola, whatever her name is, she coming out with stuff left, right, and centre. Well, at the end of the day, if I were Daniel Kinehan, I'd be a bit cheesed off because the kid ain't got a parking ticket to his name, has he? So why is there all this noise around him if he's so innocent? Why not just go back to Ireland and face it? If you're innocent.
Yeah, 100%. I just take the attitude of a lot of people, and that's why I'm sticking up for Sam Jones. Sam Jones is just a convenient idiot in all of this. People like Sam Jones are just convenient idiots, right? They're people who are so in awe of the reputation and the energy that's around the situation that they don't mind being involved because it makes them look cool. But the real people, and I'm sure the Americans know who they are, if they fall, which I don't think they will, because I think they help authorities in other ways, but if they were to fall, there'd be no boxing. It'd be as simple as that. There'd be no boxing.
Yeah,
and to come back to something you've said before, Russ, we need to start asking the board, when are you going to make a stand about these things? If it's not the judging, it's all sorts of people being able to come into the sport, all of this stuff, right? When are the board haven't come out and said anything about this. MTK's shuts up shop. So I don't know how many shows that's knocked off, right? Then the board haven't said anything. All these boxers without promotion, without management, they haven't said anything.
Nobody wants to address it, do they? They're all frightened, aren't they?
But you have to address it because it's your sport. Like, how have you allowed organized crime to allegedly infiltrate your sport to such an extent that a company had to cease operations?
And where does it leave the British Boxing Board of Control in all this? Because they were all lapping it all up for the last 10 years, aren't they?
I think the government has to step in and intervene. There has to be something that investigates the sport and says, why is there not a fit and proper test? You know, we have to start working out who can't be involved in boxing.
Something needs to be done, doesn't it? Because it's going to drive the sport to be shut for at least a year, 18 months, or it's going to drive it underground, isn't it? And what about all the people that are connected to it, all the clubs and things like that? Are they all going to suffer? Boxing clubs and stuff?
No, because generally the pro money doesn't trickle into the amateur side. It's rare that it does. So I think the amateur side will be fine. But
don't the pros need the amateurs to like have the conveyor belt of kids turning pro when they finish as amateurs?
Yeah, okay. But look at Ireland, right? So Ireland had a guy, Bernard Dunn, and he delivered gold medals for Ireland at last year's Olympics, right? Kelly Harrington and whatnot. He hasn't touched that Irish team since, I don't think. They've had him on the shelf, and I think only recently they got rid of him. And there was a whiff of scandal about him as well. It's crazy where this is seemingly ending up, mate. Like, I think when we get to about June, July, a few interesting things are going to happen in terms of, let's see who gets exposed and who suddenly doesn't have a deal, or organizational changes that have to happen.
Yeah. It's a strange one, really, because I don't think the sport's been confronted by anything like this in its history, has it really?
Nah, nowhere near.
Do you feel that the powers that be at the Board of Control need to resign, or do you think that there needs to be somebody to investigate them? Because there isn't anybody to overlook them, is there? They're self-appointed, aren't they?
It's why you'd have the government come in and they'd hire someone to do a proper audit of the board and go, right, okay, are you sticking to your processes? Because look, in terms of fighter safety, I think the board have been brilliant, right? I think if something were to happen to you, if you were to ever have a heart attack doing a sport, amateur or pro, you'd want to do it boxing, because the defibrillator is about 6 foot away from you. You're more likely to survive. Boxing's made a lot of gains in that sense. What we've never sorted out is the organizational side of it. Never sorted that out. And now we're paying a heavy price. You'd never get this in the Premier League.
No, it'd be nipped in bud within seconds, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you wouldn't get in. Don't you remember they tried to get involved in football?
Who did?
Well, MGM, MTK tried to get involved in football.
Yeah, tried to sign. They had agents and all that on trying to sign.
Yeah, and what happened? How about you don't do that?
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? I just hope that the sport ain't going to be frozen, put on ice for a while. You know what I mean? A year out, and it'll have a knock-on effect for a lot of people, won't it? And it'd be a shame, won't it, really?
And the scary thing is, because we don't know where the money's coming from, we don't know what the exposure is here.
Could all just be hearsay. It might all blow away and nothing will happen, do you think?
That would be a big red flag if it did, though, Russ. After all of this noise and having the US Treasury name people, imagine it went away now. It's like, oh, no, there's no case to answer.
Yeah, but we're talking like, haven't they just being Spanish government have just given a load of assets back worth $500 million? That's what it said, didn't it, on news? They've given all the stuff back. So if that's just assets, mate, there's a lot of crumbs flying about, or should we say crusts? Shouldn't we? A lot of crusts flying about.
Yeah, but so generally, when you get the organs of state involved in something, they need blood. It's almost like the Gurkha's knife, Russ. You know, once the Gurkha's knife comes out, it must draw blood. That's once the DEA, once the Treasury, once all those guys are involved, they'll stay involved until they get someone. And then they'll go, okay, our work here is done. So there's no question that they'll get someone. It's just a question of how many.
Do you think there could be arrests up and down the board? I mean, we've already had people like Coogan, Matthew Macklin, Ben Davidson, refused entry into America. Do you feel that other people could be refused? You know, like Tyson Fury. I mean, either one that was shouting off that Dan's the man and well done for making the fight and all that. I mean, why would they shout that? Were they told to say it?
It's all very weird, isn't it? Because I'm not used to this idea of...
I'm on about the Joshua fight that they were done deal, aren't I? You know, with Fury Joshua. That was 2 years ago now, wasn't it? Next month.
Yeah.
2 years, it's a done deal and all that. Within 2 years of that statement, everything, the whole house of cards has collapsed, hasn't it?
You know what it is? Everyone was so confident that this could carry on forever. And I think the big miscalculation, just from what I've heard, is they never thought the Americans would get this involved. They thought all they'd have to do is bypass the Irish and it'll be fine. We just carry on as normal. And once the Americans got involved, it just moved up a gear.
Do you think
because now there's pressure on Dubai. It's like, God, you guys can't just be harboring someone we've got a problem with. So what are you guys going to do about it?
You feel that somebody like Al Heyman behind the scenes would have been whispering in the right ear holes to bring this lot down, you know, and you think Heyman will know certain people because when you're a high-powered lawyer and all that. I mean, Aram's an ex-lawyer and tax lawyer. They're all in with certain people at certain areas of government, aren't they? You think that between them all, they've all got their heads together and said, let's get rid of this lot. You think that's what's happened in America?
Russ, I genuinely think they just hung themselves.
With the shouting off and all that and bigging him up.
Yeah, just too much visibility, probably having too many of the wrong people around you. You know, it gets loose after a while. And I imagine that's what's happened. If people on Twitter have a good idea of what's going on, I don't think it needs Al Heyman to provide an explanation.
Yeah. It's a shame because they were paying the fighters on time and everybody were happy and they were giving them expense money and they were a breath of fresh air, weren't they?
But at what cost, though? At what social cost? You saw giving with one hand and taking with 10 other hands.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think it's a shame how it's all worked out. Obviously, this Kinehan guy is passionate about boxing just like we are. But maybe he might have been best of just being a fan and just going to fights and having a low profile, do you think?
Um, I, look, I we Russ, boxing's been unsustainable for a long time, economically speaking.
Mm.
So maybe this is a good thing, because now we've got to find a way to make boxing sustainable, and stop relying on people with large pots of money to keep the thing afloat.
Mm.
You know, isn't that why everyone's running off to Saudi Arabia all of a sudden? This is why everyone's trying to make fights in the Middle East, because there's a bunch of other people with loads of money. We're gonna have the noise about Saudi Arabia and its human rights record and stuff, and those are valid discussions to be had too. But it's always boxing, isn't it? You know, we just never have our house in order.
Yeah, it never seems to be in order as well, doesn't it? And when it is, there's always another problem. And this is why I think that we need to look at the people who are running the sport in the country. They're old guys that are past the sell-by date. There's no young ones coming through, is there? For example, if we look at the judging in this country, it's atrocious now, isn't it? The referee, it's atrocious. But are there any young lads that are coming through as referees and learning the craft at amateur level? Why don't they have, like, at rugby, we have 13-year-old lads at rugby up north in Cumbria refereeing and doing refereeing schools and refereeing amateur matches. We're only sending people off, 13, 14-year-old lads, and them refs are going to be refs, like 15 years down the line, aren't they, when they're 29, 30, at the top rugby games. And that's how rugby deals with it. Boxing doesn't deal with it like that. It's a load of old guys who are A-star referees, and they keep it in-house. And I don't think that's healthy for the sport, That's my opinion.
But it's healthy for what they're trying to do, right? Because once you create this gravy train and you regulate who has access to it, it gives you all the power in the world.
Yeah. I see where you're coming from. Yeah, I just think it's time for a change, all top to bottom. Drug testing, border control, referees. The whole thing needs looking at top to bottom with government. Otherwise, if the sport was underground, I think it'll be an embarrassment, considering that didn't we invent the sport?
Yeah, mate, these are big problems we're facing.
And you said this 5 years ago, didn't you? You remember?
What did I say?
You said we're going to hit a recession soon in boxing, and everything's all going to come on top, and it's going to have to be ripped up and started again. And this is what we want, because the people at the top can't be trusted, can they? And we've had, like, I don't want to make this about digging out the Hearn family and the Warren family, but they've had their hands in cookie jar since 1980. And I think, and nobody's accusing them of being corrupt or anything, but they've had a good run, haven't they, with board? And it's the same board then as it is now. So why don't we have... I mean, you wouldn't get Alex Ferguson, would you, going out for a meal night before Liverpool Man United game in the 90s, would you, going out with all officials and that? It wouldn't happen. So why do we have it in boxing?
Mate, it's the gravy train. It's the gravy train because the board want to make sure all the fights happen here so they can get their cut. The promoters are like, look, we'd rather take the fights where the money is, man. We'd rather have all these fights in Vegas. And I think that's what ends up happening, right? You put the pressure on the board and you say, right, we might just do all these fights in Vegas. Like, look, Ricky Hatton had all his big fights in Vegas, right?
Boston.
And the board, and the board weren't eating off that. So at that point there, you've got leverage over the board. And then once you do that, it becomes this cozy relationship where they let certain people through when they shouldn't. And in return, you make sure your shows happen over here. Your old rant before was brilliant, where you're like, they all want resigning.
I said what?
They all want resigning, all of them.
Yeah, they've all got to resign, haven't they? Got whatever pay you've had, Robert Smith, Charlie Giles, all the rest of you, consider it severance pay, take the train and get out of Dodge. Or if not, can Robert Smith or Charlie Giles answer me this question from Porky's Corner? Because if I ever see you, I'm just going to ask them this. I said, what mark would you give yourselves for the last 10 years of running the Boxing Board of Control out of 10. What mark would you give yourselves, chaps? And let's see what they say. If they say would give us sends a 10, I'd say on basis of what? If they say we'll give us sends a 5, could do better. I say, well, why are you still here? Why don't you resign? So either way, they're not going to answer a question like that because they're knackered, aren't they? But they've not covered themselves in glory, as Dennis used to say. And I think it's disappointing from them, the board, that they're not walking, because anybody else would be asked to walk. They're doing a Boris Johnson, aren't they? He should have walked a long time ago, and he just won't, will he? Because they can hide behind people, and that's what the board are doing. They're paying lip service and passing the buck, but the only way to get these out is, I feel, not to go to shows and not support boxing. Listen to it on radio. Don't support it. If you want these...
Do you know, this is what it would take, and this is kind of the problem. It would take someone with a big pot of money to set up their own governing body and just run it. Just pay fighters and run it.
You know, this Board of Control, they're not going to go quietly, you know. They're not going to go. They're going to have to be bought out because they feel like they've earned it, don't they?
Yeah.
They feel like they've earned it. They've had a good run. All got good lives. They all live in big houses. All on that free gratis fight week. We all know, don't we? Food and drink, beverage, hotels, limos, the lot. They've had a good do out of it, mate. But it's time to go now because they've run it into the ground and this is where we're at. This is what I feel. A lot of laminate holders I speak to feel the same, but they're not going to come out and say it because they don't want to lose their livelihoods, do they? Or they don't want to lose what they do other than the knowledge of the passion. You know, not many people are prepared to stand up. I want to see some people stand up and say, you know what? This ain't right. And sooner or later, we're going to be picking bodies up on slab. Because some of this matchmaking I'm seeing, scandalous, mate. Isn't it? The matchmaking is shocking. But nobody's saying, no, I'm bitter and twisted and I hate the sport and I'm not wrapped up right and for speaking out. Well, why? So we live in a...
Mate, I said, if every fighter's license was limited to 30 fights, you'd solve a lot of problems in boxing.
Oh, sure, because they won't want to waste fights fighting bums, would they?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? We won't have Josh Taylor against that guy from whoever, Cayman Islands or whoever he fought a while back. Dennis had his teeth into, O'Neill did. He shouldn't have been in with Josh Taylor. And we won't have been led into situations where Jack Catterall clearly scored Taylor and got shafted, but nobody mentions about poor old Jack Catterall at the moment, do they? It's like gone, it's a distant memory. But
boxing moves on.
I think about him every single day. Every time I hear the word light welterweight or 140 pound, I always think of Jack Catterall and what they did to that kid that night. And they know who they are, them Border Control people. They made a scapegoat out of Ian John Lewinson, although he should have gone years ago. The man's a blind man. But there's more. But what about the guy who was 1 point away from Ian John Lewinson? If Ian John Lewison's in front of the board, at least that guy should have been suspended as well or had to go in front of him. They made a scapegoat, didn't they? Ian John Lewinson. But that's how I look at it. I want to see change and I want to see it now. I don't want to hear all this. Yeah, we're going to look at it. Looking at it doesn't do anything. They were bullied into getting rid of that referee. You know that, don't you? They were bullied into it. They had to act to keep the noses in the trough, or they thought we're going to lose the whole lot here. So we'll have to throw him to wolves so we can have our noses in the truffles, and that's what they've done. But nobody's mentioning Jack Catterall or that incident now. We're on to other things. And this is what happens. A week in boxing is a long time, Terry.
Well, Catterall's problem is there's no money in it.
There's no what?
There's no money in Catterall.
No, there isn't.
So there's no reason, there's no incentive for a rematch because you're like, well, what money are we going to make off Jack Catterall? Whereas if we put Josh Taylor in with someone at 147, we know we're going to make some money.
Why didn't they put Josh Taylor in with Kell Brook?
Because Kell's retired now.
Well, why didn't Kell Brook have a big retirement send-off like Dave Allen at Sky? He didn't, did he? He just did it on quiet because, in my opinion, they're still trying to manoeuvre behind the scenes and they're They don't want to have a big palaver going all the way down there. If you're serious about retiring, Kel, after 14 years, you want to give him the big sky send-off, wouldn't you? Make a fuss of him. But he's done it quietly because he's still got one toe in boxing ring, and one out, kind of thing. That's what I think. I just think they're just playing games and trying to get a better deal for themselves. They don't care for boxing fans, boxers. They're quite rightly so. They're getting punched in the head. They care for
I said it before. Well, once you retire, you shouldn't be allowed back.
Kel's looking after himself, which is what I wanted David Allen to do. But he wanted to be more bothered about what Eddie thought of him and stay loyal to Eddie. Eddie don't care for Dave Allen. He don't even care for anybody. He cares for himself. It look and state of him. I've never seen him. He's got his hair pulled over from. He must have an hairy back. He's got it pulled over from his back at the moment, hasn't he? He don't care for himself. So how's he going to care for Dave Allen? No, I want to see change. But getting back to Brooke Khan, what did you think to that fight?
It was sad watching Amir Khan like that. I thought Kel did what he did. I thought Kel looked good. I think, Amir Khan obviously helped with that. But I thought Kel looked good. One thing I said this about Kel in retirement. He was the most fundamentally sound boxer this country's produced in the last 40 years. Yeah. And I know people try and argue and say this name, that name. Here's my test, right? In a Kell Brook fight, you can pause it 100 times. 95 of those times, Kell Brook will be in the perfect position. Yeah. Head will be between the feet, perfectly balanced. His hands will be in the right place. He doesn't make a lot of errors. And that's why he only lost to top tier opposition.
Yeah. Yeah, he done it. He's a tough kid, Kell Brook.
Yeah.
Froch has sparred him loads of times. He's technically fantastic.
I think he broke Froch's rib.
No, he didn't, Terry. Stop trying to wind me up. He didn't. You can't help it, can you, with Froch?
Well, no. Look, next time you see him, just look and wonder why one side is a bit off. He can't stand up straight.
Can't sit still, you mean? Amir Khan, is he retired, Terry?
Oh man, I really hope he is. It would be sad to watch him against a young, hungry contender now. It would be sad to watch. I wouldn't want to see that.
Wouldn't you?
No. Sometimes you've just got to go.
What next for Conor Benn, Terry?
I think they'll dig up Jesse Vargas for him. They'll say Vargas was never a 154. That's why he lost to Liam Smith, but he's a world-class operator at 147, and that's who Conor Benn will fight. It's either him or Maurice Hooker. One of the two.
What do you feel will happen with Huey now? Do you think that obviously he's going to fight Hunter next? Just waiting. I think they're going to announce it this week. Do you think if Huey beats Hunter, he's going to get the DeBar Bryan winner? That's what I'm hearing.
Nah.
No, you don't see that, Terry?
No. I think Huey's going to have to do it the hard way. I don't think they'll make it easy for Huey. He'll do it the hard way. Unless Sky prepared to really back him financially.
You feel that Fury's retired now? He says he is.
I'll believe it when he gives up the belt.
Yeah, because don't they give him 14 days from announcing the retirement to weigh in the belt, don't they? So we're going to see next week, aren't we, if he is retired, when they come.
Yeah.
If he is retired, well done to Tyson. But if he is retired, what do you see happening?
Mm-hmm.
See him taking a break and just dragging it out, waiting for his mandatory.
No, he'll deal with whoever wins out of Joshua and Usyk. That's all that's left for him, really.
He needs that closure with Joshua, doesn't he?
Unless Usyk ices him, then he probably doesn't.
And then he doesn't. Yeah, but he could still fight Usyk to say you're at one time.
Yeah.
But that won't be as punishing fight for him, Usyk. Well, man, again, I don't know. You don't know what Usyk's going to turn up. But yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I think we need to just get rid of this undisputed thing. I think it's been really harmful for boxing.
Yeah, people aiming to be undisputed, but they're never going to get there because of all obstacles. Do you mean?
And it ties the belts up. Right. So if you look at 147, You got Spencer, you got Crawford, right? Then if they fight each other next, fantastic, scatter the belts again. But how long have we waited for those two to fight for undisputed? And then meanwhile, everyone's parked up waiting.
Oh, Spencer and Crawford has been going on for 5 years, that hasn't it now?
Yeah. So look how long people have been parked up waiting.
And look,
That's what I don't like. Look at the heavyweights, right? Same problem. Look how long everyone's been parked up waiting for their shot.
there's always some, a mandatory or a unification supersedes a mandatory, or an injury or a pullout or this or that, and it just goes on and on. And when they're fighting twice a year, it just seems to get away from us, doesn't it? It's like we're being fed utter rubbish. I think.
Yeah. Mate, we are. We're being fed utter nonsense. And that's why people need to stop falling in love with these ideas that promoters sell you. Like, yeah, undisputed means this, that, and the other. It doesn't mean that much. Because undisputed is about who you beat to become undisputed, right?
Yeah.
That's what it's about. So for me, they say Usyk is unified heavyweight champion. I'm like, he didn't unify anything.
No, I didn't know.
No, Joshua unified the belts. Yeah, 100%. So I can say he unified them. Yeah, but I mean, Usyk's got to, like, you got to do something.
He already got the belts, didn't he, in 2015? He has to be given credit for taking them off Vladimir, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he didn't unify them either.
No, he didn't. He went off rails, didn't he? What do you think to women's boxing at the moment, Terry? It seems to been in news lately, isn't it? A bit. Katie Taylor's fight was good, wasn't it?
Hell of a fight, mate. Absolutely brilliant fight. Not one for the purists in terms of like, there wasn't a lot of finesse to it, but you had two warriors going at it in there, and you have to respect that.
Yeah. Yeah, you watched it, didn't you? Do you feel that Katie Taylor's now the greatest ever female fighter ever?
No.
Who do you feel that is?
That's Clarissa Shields by some distance.
Yeah. Do you think she beats Savannah?
If that fight ever happens.
Good fight, isn't it?
I just have a feeling we're not going to see that fight anytime soon.
Why?
I think there's some stuff that needs to be worked through on that one, is my diplomatic answer. Because if you remember, we were told one more fight for Shields, one more fight for Savannah Marshall, they'll fight in June. That's what we were told, right? Sky have a show on June 11th. I think that was the original date for Marshall versus Shields. So that date's now gone. Richard Riakport's got that date. So what's your next one? July? If it's July, you got to announce it now. And it hasn't been announced.
Yeah.
So now we're looking at August. August is quite flat for boxing, so you want to do it then. The earliest you're looking at is September.
Well, I don't think it's going to be this year now, Savannah and Rio.
No.
Although they're trying to get it on for summer up north, but we're going to see, aren't we? But yeah, it's a fight I'm looking forward to, Savannah and Shields. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if it's a pay-per-view, won't it?
I hope not.
Yeah, why?
If you're trying to grow the women's side of the sport, I'd rather have it in front of as many eyes as possible. Like the money's almost incidental at that point. No, it's just being honest. It's almost incidental because if you put it behind a paywall, a lot of people wouldn't pay for that. It's like, well, I'm not paying to watch 2-minute rounds.
Yeah. It's not long enough, is it? 2 minutes.
So my argument back was make it 15 twos for a title fight. Make it 15 2-minute rounds.
What, half an hour?
Yeah.
Well, that's sort of different. Instead of 12 twos, yeah, 24 minutes or 10 twos.
Or even 10 threes, because that's what they're saying. Make it 10 3-minute rounds. I was like, no, make it 15 twos. I think that rest time is good because it gives you more time to recharge and reboot. So you get higher quality rounds.
Yeah, it's when you're getting nick knocks and this and it inspiring and stuff. It helps like that. That sort of counts, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But all right then. McCormack's. What do you think to him, Terry?
Strange story. Pat was as golden a prospect as you could imagine. Luke was not far behind. They were Matchroom all the way, hardwired for Matchroom. So the fact that Eddie passed on them, the fact that Frank passed on them, and they ended up at Pro Bellum is a red flag to me because something's gone wrong somewhere. They were too good not to be like... Pat McCormack should have been either on Sky, DAZN, or BT as their marquee name. That should have been the guy. He's one of the best amateurs we've produced. Like he's incredibly good. And what did he do? Olympic silver medal?
Yeah.
And you're on Pro Bellum. We don't get to see you. We don't, like, you've just disappeared. How? So someone tell me what's gone wrong there.
We might not be able to.
I got a question for you. What do you think of this Lauren Price and Karis Arting store training at GB now as professionals? Because remember, you had questions about this back in the day.
Mm-hmm. I did, yeah, and I wasn't happy that Cobra trained up there, although he was training up there before any of it started, because he was with McCracken, wasn't he, when McCracken didn't really know his role. So Carl were up there from 2009 summer. But there's professionals up there now making full use of facilities, and I don't agree with it because it's lottery funded, and it should be just for amateurs, shouldn't it? Really, Team GB setup. You wouldn't get Man United and Liverpool training at St George's Park with England training, because that won't be fair, would it? Making full use of good facilities, it gives you an edge on everybody else. So I don't agree with that. I don't think it should be happening. And McCracken, well, he allowed it to happen up there, didn't he? Because they were all there, weren't they, at one point? A Coley. I mean, I've been up there and I've seen a Coley there, Ben, Tony Sims, McCracken, Joshua, all of them, O'Hara Davis, all of them bouncing about up there, and they're all pros, but it's lottery funded. It's for amateurs. I don't think it's right, but this is where you need Board of Control to step in and say, here, what you're training here for, this is amateurs. But there has to be a level playing field, doesn't there?
Yeah.
It's one of the things. Do you think Tony Bellew's going to come back, or is he just training for Creed?
He might do one of them exhibitions.
Well, he's getting itchy feet in it, Tony, because he keeps popping up, doesn't he?
Well, you know, I guess this is what happens, right? You see the money people are making, and you're like, I'm in good shape. I'm not too banged up. Why can't I do this? But he hasn't got a natural rival, has he? There isn't anyone you'd want to see him do an exhibition with.
No. Cleverly,
if you can find him.
Nathan Clever might be sat somewhere having a right time in some really shitty bedsit with a load of scrubbers who having time of his life. Good on Nathan. Team Nath.
Who would you want to see him in with for an exhibition?
Oh, Bellew. I don't know. I'd like to see him and Frotch get at it at 14 stone or something, 13 and a half stone, get at it. That's what I'd like to see.
Okay, let's put that into the universe. Hey, your old pal ran for office the other day.
Yeah, Spencer Fearon went for South Norwood to be the local councillor in Croydon, didn't he? I believe, as a politician.
How many votes did he get?
I don't know, but he didn't win, I've been told. But obviously Spencer now knows that there's no room at the inn, MTK, for him, which I'm surprised about, because if Daniel Kinehan's the godfather to his children, they should be set up for life, shouldn't they? He should need to work. Once you tell a lie, Spencer, you got to tell another. Now go get a fucking job. He's not going to work at Aldi, is he, old Spencer?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you got to get your weight up, man. Like, you guys are due to fight by the end of the year.
Hey, listen, 10 stone 6 this morning, mate. So I've got.
So you're welter now.
I've got issues, and I'm back up there today at 2 o'clock up at doctor's, but I've got issues with something. There's something going on that inside here that's I'm not retaining my food, am I? So I'm gonna be like that in another year. My kids will be like, "Oh yeah, I remember you, Dad, when you won't let me have that toy. Get out of it." Sort of something because I can't keep anything down. But yeah, listen, if me and Spencer don't fight, so what? We've had a bit of a giggle, haven't we? But I'm not going to let anybody bully me on social media. You know that, Terry, don't you? Good luck to him if he wants to do well in his community. If he were going to be a politician, I'd say good luck to him because he's got all suits for it and all waffle, hasn't
he? Yeah. You know the exhibition I'd like to see, Porky?
One.
Froch versus Tyon Booth.
Yeah, that'd be over quickly though, wouldn't it? He wouldn't last 2 minutes, would he? Tyon with a cobra.
Oh, easily. I don't think Froch would land a glove on it.
Well, I very much doubt that. I don't think.
Now, there was a rumor that when Froch is getting ready for Jarrell, they got Tyon Booth in because they needed someone tricky and awkward. Froch kicked him out because he didn't land a punch on him.
Let me tell you, you know that word, Terry, rumor? You know it's a pipe, don't you? Well, by surmises, jealousies, and conjectures. People are either surmising, they're conjecting rubbish up. Oh, the fuck. Surmises?
Yeah.
Surmises. Rumor is a pipe done by surmisers and conjectures. Something else. I forget now what it is, but listen. Rumor, don't listen to it. And you know who said that, don't you? Al Capone, 1925.
Well, I don't trust any man that can't pay his taxes.
Surmisers, jealousies, and conjectures are either surmising, the jealous, or the conjecting rubbish. Al Capone, but it didn't help Al, did it, to give him 11 years, didn't he, in Alcatraz?
There you go.
But no, getting back to Spencer Fearon, right? You've just killed my video. I'm going to do it the other day. I'm going to do it in a couple of days, but it's out there now anyway. But I wouldn't have thought he'd do anything like that. When somebody sent me, I nearly collapsed. But you've got to give him front, haven't you? Because he's not going to get a job, is he?
Well, boxing, that's too tricky.
Well, he's bent all his bridges at boxing. MTK were last trough for him, wasn't he? You know, he's been around houses we all meet you, and so if he's going to be a politician, let's hope he can get change, and he might even do good. Do you know what I mean? But where I think he'll mess up is he makes a lot of things about race, doesn't he? You've got to be careful around that issue, aren't you, in politics? Yeah. But like I said, he's got the wardrobe for it, hasn't he? And obviously he loves his sending. He's got the haircut. He's even got the glasses now. Have you seen them bins he wears, mate? They're not normal bins, them. Do you know what they are? Super bins.
Oh my God.
They're super bins, them, aren't they? Spencer, where did you get them from? A lucky bag. But yeah. Okay then. Well, listen. Yeah, it's going to go off in 60 seconds. Listen, thanks for coming on.
No worries, mate.
I'll get this figured out. I don't know why it keeps cutting out after 40 minutes. I'll have to get Cameron to have a look at it tomorrow. But thanks for coming on, Terry. You've been a gentleman. And we will...
That's been a good episode.
Another day. I promise.
All right, mate. Speak to you soon, Russ. Take care, mate.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
That was Terry. I don't know why there's got some tech issues since I've come back from my jollies. Nice to have him on. I've got to go to Southampton now and deal with a turkey promotional video for Cosmetic Beach. And while I were out there, I bagged Sea Life Royal apartment suites. Well, I've got to feed me, son, I know. So there's a good video with the turkey. What happens in Turkey stays in Turkey. So I hope you like it. But I'm going to put finishing touches that today over the next couple of days. And then we'll be back battling boxing industry this week. Okie doke. Peace out. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a comment. And thanks for subscribing. It means a lot to me. And thanks for sharing it amongst your mates on WhatsApp. Oh yeah, cat.